What's up, everyone? Welcome to this week's episode of Galactic Outpost. Ultramonth is officially over, but Ultraman still made its way on the channel with this. But anyway, we're gonna let Cody do the complete intro of this one since it was his idea.
Hello, good people. How you doing? It's the man who's back, who's whack, who's keeping you all on track. It's me, Cody Bratch, me and Gojin the Makai Phantom are going to show you where it's at. Ow!
Yeah.
So, what we're talking about today is a little interesting. We here in America live in a capitalist world. That means that if we really want something, we do the talking with our wallets, particularly the money in the wallet. And one of the many industries or businesses that's was built on that was the movie business or the film industry, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Basically, in the minds of the people running these big film studios, the best way you can say you like a movie is for you to give them money, a lot of money. And you do that by typically the best way to do that, what they measure the most by how much you like the movie, is box office numbers. Now,
Matt wants to join.
Okay, let him in.
Continue on. Just let me add. Just send a link to the chat room. Matt, check Discord in a few seconds because I'm about to send it to you.
Okay, so you don't
Discord now, Matt.
It should be noted that just because a movie makes a lot of money at the box office, it's not necessarily indicative of the quality of the movie, because there's a lot of movies that have made a bunch of money that people would say didn't deserve it, and there's others that say there was good movies, genuinely good movies that underperformed that should have gotten more money than what they did. Hello, Matt.
Almost definitely. Like, for example, in a lot of those movies that poorly performed in the box office years ago, like, for example, John Carpenter's The Thing, Godzilla vs. Biollante, Ultraman the Next, they're considered fan favorites now. The Thing is considered a masterpiece. Ultraman the Next is now considered one of the best entries in the Ultra franchise.
Oh, I agree, dude. I mean,
it is.
Ultraman Next is especially good.
Yes,
absolutely.
It's almost as good as say, I don't know, the Gamera Heisei trilogy.
I'd actually describe the Nexus as the Dark Knight and the Gamera trilogy of Ultraman, since Ultraman's both kaiju and superhero genre. So if I was to compare it from one thing in the superhero genre and one thing in the kaiju genre, it would be those two trilogies, and that's one of the reasons I love them so much.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
and then you also have
the Dark Knight trilogy is actually pretty damn good. I mean,
it is. I love it.
The best one being the Dark Knight.
Yes, that one's great. I think everything about the entire trilogy is phenomenal.
Yeah, the only thing not so phenomenal about the Dark Knight trilogy would be Christian Bale's gravelly voice. Like, dude.
What are you talking about? This voice is fucking awesome. You shut the hell up.
You actually nailed that, Cody.
Years of practice.
But another entry that, of course, is now a fan favorite is Godzilla vs. Biollante. Like, when that was first released in 1989 in the movie house, it didn't do well, like, at all. But now...
But it should have. I mean...
Yeah, but, which, interesting enough, after Godzilla vs. Biollante, the entire Heisei series started to do incredible in the box office, but that's besides the point. Nowadays, Godzilla vs. Biollante is a fan favorite amongst Godzilla fans. Even Attack on Titan and the multiple other very popular mainstream shows have took a lot of inspiration from it because it's such a beloved entry.
Yeah, and here's the kicker. Godzilla vs. Biollante was supposed to be a was supposed to be what Gunhead was supposed to be. A Godzilla. Gunhead was supposed to be a Godzilla movie.
I had no idea about that, but that makes sense.
Yeah, from what I remember,
just
Toho
imagine.
held a script submitting contest, and whichever script they liked the most, they're just like, we'll make that into the next Godzilla movie. And Gunhead, I guess, placed second, but they decided to remove Godzilla from it, whereas the Godzilla vs. Biollante script placed first and was written by, of all people, if you can believe it, a fucking dentist.
Oh,
Really?
that was actually, they chose the right script, because now it's actually because now it's considered one of the best entries. It's like Ultraman the next.
Just imagine Godzilla versus Skynet. I mean, what's not to love?
Exactly. But like I said, it's considered a fan favorite now. It may have become a fan favorite in the 90s as well, because Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla was a massive drawback to that movie. Everything about it connects deeply to Godzilla vs. Biollante. You have Yuki, Gondo's sister. Space Godzilla himself is pretty much very similar to Biollante, just without the plant stuff.
From what I can gather, and what I recollect, in 2016, right before Shin Godzilla was released to try and hype it up, there was a poll that was held in Japan about what was the most loved Godzilla movie at the time, and I think Godzilla vs. Biollante actually reached number 1 in the poll, so there's that.
Yeah, that's what I mean on your entire point, because I agree with it.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same deal with Blade Runner. I mean, Blade Runner didn't exactly do that well in the theaters, but once it hit home video, it's pretty much become a fan favorite among sci-fi enthusiasts, myself included.
Big Trouble in Little China as well. I haven't seen it myself, but it's another movie like John Carpenter's The Thing that didn't do well at the box office, but now is a classic. And I bet
that's actually my favorite John Carpenter movie, and it is a good counter argument against the idea that it has to win at the box office or else it's not a good movie. Go ahead. I was going to say, when you see how much money the movies make on home media, like DVD, streaming, like digital purchases and all of that, and you see that it actually overtakes a movie makes at the box office, you start to realize that the idea that the box office is how you judge a movie success is flawed. However, some people, looking at you, studio heads, are too thick-headed to realize that.
Yeah, most definitely.
Still, that's the system we've been dealt with, and that's what the podcast is supposed to be about, is talking about we're going to be talking about 3 specific movies that are currently in theaters, their box office results, what that could say about people who watch them, or like what the impact of those box office could have on the pop culture zeitgeist.
And hopefully an end to the wokeification of movies.
We can only hope.
Yep.
I mean, some of the themes that they have in those woke movies are not necessarily bad in concept. They're more so in execution, in that they make that the whole identity with nothing else to go for, and you just have to accept that. And if you don't accept that, you're a bad person, and you're also a bad person if you don't let us talk down to you about why the way you think is inferior, but our way of thinking is superior.
Yeah, I think the way to handle left politics in movies would be Ishiro Honda, for example. He was a liberal, and a lot of his movies were a perfect example of how I would handle something like that.
Yeah, at least he doesn't fillet Che Guevara like a certain other their video game dev who pretty much gets flack nowadays.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, Cody, which one are we going to discuss first?
Well, I figure as sort of like cutting off point, we might as well just consider you did a whole month about the Ultra series. We might as well start off with Shin Ultraman.
Good
Or
idea.
as I'd like to call it, film of the year.
Yep. Give me a minute. Gotta turn the light on.
Now,
Top Gun Maverick coming in at numero dos.
that's actually one of the movies we'll be talking about later.
Yep,
I know.
in the thumbnail.
Now, interest of full disclosure, I don't think anyone here on the panel has seen Shin Ultraman yet. Have you?
I wanted to.
We will eventually. Right now, we just have to settle for Anno's short little fan film to Return of Ultraman.
Oh, yeah.
Or the first 10 minutes, which has been uploaded on YouTube.
Yes.
I swear, Anno's such a dork for Ultraman, and that's why we love him.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. That's actually a big thing. That's actually the thing about about Anno in general. Like, I know it's a lot of mecha elitists will go on about, this movie did poor. Wait, what am I talking about? My mind's fucking up. I know it's a lot of mecha elitists will go on about how Evangelion takes a lot from other media, but generally they point it to other mecha, and it's like, yeah, Eva has inspiration from other mecha in there too, but let's not forget the main thing of Evangelion is fucking Ultraman.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not exactly that much an Evangelion fan. I mean, I'm more of a Gundam Macross and Votoms guy, to be honest. That being said, I do respect for Evangelion for what it brought to the table in terms of storytelling, in terms of world building, in terms of outright pathos.
Yeah. Hey, Sosa, would you like to join the podcast? I sent you the link on Facebook to the chat room if you're interested.
Yeah, and besides, if we're gonna talk about my favorite thing anime wise from Hideaki Anno, it'd be Gunbuster, dude.
My favorite, I think Gunbuster is definitely up there, but my favorite things from him would have to be Shin Godzilla.
I'm more talking anime wise, but yeah.
Oh, and anime wise, Gunbuster's great, but for me, Evangelion's definitely up there because one of the things that makes Evangelion so good is essentially a lot like Star Wars is essentially a bunch of Lucas's nerdy stuff put into one movie. Evangelion is essentially Anno's. Okay, Sosa said,
Yeah,
give me
fair.
notes, I'll do it again.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
Of course.
That's basically why I respect George Lucas too, because that man knows exactly what nerdy shit is and how awesome it is.
Yeah. But when it comes to Shin Ultraman's box office, to those who's been keeping up to date like I have, it's currently doing well. Like, I think it's like the second most successful Japanese movie in theaters right now of the year. In general, it's like the 6th place of the year, but that's still really fucking good, and that's of the year. And the movie's currently doing very well for the box office revenue, and I definitely kind of expected this since Ultraman's already super popular, and Anno is too. Shin Godzilla is one of the highest grossing movies in Japan of all time. And I think that's a big reason they're kind of putting this in, because all these companies want to get in on that. All these companies want to get in on that Shin pie, okay? That's why they are naming every entry Shin they're naming every entry Shin because they know it's going to get people into the theaters. And
yeah, by the way, Ultraman way over MCU. They're most dead bitches.
Yeah, most definitely. I agree with you 100%.
Now, interesting thing about Shin Godzilla, it was the second highest grossing Japanese movie. What's the word for in 2016? Local. That's it. It was the highest grossing locally made movie in Japan at $73 million. I don't know what that amounts to in yen, but there you go. And now, as far as Shin Ultraman goes, prior to the film's release, Super Riot Productions predicted that the film would gross about 10 billion yen. I don't know what that translates to American dollars, but as it currently stands, the movie has made 4 billion yen, which equals to about $30.9 million, give or take. So currently, it is the highest. It's the most commercially successful of the film in the Ultraman franchise, surpassing the previous title holder of that, which was Superior Ultraman 8 Brothers.
Yes. Yes, it did. And Ultraman 8, Ultra Brothers Super 8 was actually a really good movie. So it also was very high grossing for what it was. So what we have here is a very groundbreaking entry here. But that's because, like I said, you have Ultraman with Anno involved, also with that Shin title thrown in. And essentially, the way they marketed it was very similar to how Shin Godzilla came out, to kind of get people in those seats. Like, you have that similar cinematography, the music, and everything about it just be like, oh, this is like Shin Godzilla, but if it was Ultraman. And from what I heard about the movie, it kind of is that way too, but kind of like how Shin Godzilla took Gogeta's tone and put it in a more modern, different take. Shin Ultraman, from what I heard, takes the original Ultraman's tone, and that being a mix of fun, goofiness with seriousness. And that's essentially what I heard about Shin Ultraman. And so he's giving them all this very unique, he's giving them all this modernization. It's probably going to be the same way with Kamen Rider. And the original Kamen Rider, from what I heard, is actually pretty much horror in many ways.
Right on. I can't help but wonder what the final box office results will be. If it will reach Super Riot's Productions predictions, try saying that 5 times fast, or will it surpass or at least reach the heights of Shin Godzilla's box office? Because as it currently stands, while its opening weekend was more than Shin Godzilla's, it has yet to beat Shin Godzilla's actual box office record. What could that... And it makes me wonder what that could say to people who are watching it.
Yeah, most definitely. Jackson Knight Productions said, Shin Ultraman looks like it's going to blow Shin Godzilla out of the water. We'll see. I actually thought Shin Godzilla was really good because...
It already did, in my opinion.
Yeah, for me, Shin Godzilla...
I'm a huge Ultraman fan.
I'm a huge fan of both. And for me, when it comes to Shin Godzilla, one of the things that made that really good is, like I said, it took aspects of the original and Anno reimagined them in his own style, and he just made something really good. And from what I've seen and heard about Shin Ultraman, that's exactly what they do there. So that sounds right up my alley. I'm loving this Shin treatment. Jackson Knight Productions, Kryptonian Kaiju said a good company and a good writer was actually promoting a movie people have interest in. Yeah, pretty much.
I have a question for you guys. When it comes to general audiences who might not be as into Ultraman as, say, hardcore Ultraman fans, okay, filthy casuals, what do you think would entice them to go see the movie most? Do you think it might be a trailer, the marketing campaign, the looking online to see how much money the movie makes, or seeing what kind of critical reviews it has?
I'm more thinking the monster fights. Yeah, those are more the money shot right here.
When it comes to normies in America, I'd say so, but in Japan, I think they also value a good story and characters, because look at how the MonsterVerse films perform over there and compare it to how Toho handles their takes on Godzilla. Their takes on Godzilla generally are very story and character driven, and like, for example, Shin Godzilla, one of the most successful entries in the film franchise as a whole. He took the Heisei Godzilla's face of Toho. And now that Shin Godzilla is so big, I heard it's one of the highest grossing movies to ever show its face in Japan of all time. It's in the top 100. So that's essentially how Japan wants their Godzilla to be. While in America, it's more big monster fights, which I notice is big. Like you go to Pacific Rim, the first one, and you have that balance, kind of like a Godzilla movie. While Uprising, you could see that Stephen DeKnight likes kaiju films for a different reason than Guillermo del Toro does.
Yeah, that's why Guillermo del Toro should have remained the director of the Pacific Rim series, because that man knows exactly how kaiju films should feel.
Del Toro knows what's up for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. He's someone who's passionate about it.
I mean,
like Stephen
sure, you can sell the audience on really cool giant robot versus giant monster fights, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if it ain't got a story worth giving a fuck about, it's basically an equivalent to a Michael Bay flick.
It's funny that you should make that comparison because of the fact that, well, to put it bluntly, the first Pacific Rim, while actually, in my opinion, a genuinely good movie, did not really do so good at the box office. It made like only $411 million, whereas for some reason, up until the last night, the Michael Bay just kept on making more and more money, getting into the $1 billion point. Anyways, yeah. We live in a world right now currently where you can't really say that your movie's a success, or at least a big blockbuster movie is, unless it gets to $1 billion at the box office. Now, you could make arguments that anywhere between that, like between 500 million and up to that, could also be considered a good box office number. But let's be honest, they only want most corporate fatheads want their movie to go to $1 billion at the box office.
Yeah, pretty much. But that's
because your average corporate fathead doesn't care about good quality. They're all just designed by committee.
Yeah, they want money. That's essentially.
We got to have money.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Although that makes me ask a question. People have come out and said that they don't like the Michael Bay Transformer movies. A lot of people have, yet people kept going to see them, whereas you have movies that people seem to like, but they don't go to see them and they don't get that same high box office number unless, well, it's an MCU movie. It makes me wonder why that is.
Apparently people like to go to movies go to Michael Bay movies for that whole, just because they think they're the next MST3K or something.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which I'm sorry to say, you ain't gonna beat Mike Nelson, Crow, and Tom Servo. I'm sorry, dudes. You just can't.
I also wonder something else with Shin Ultraman doing as good as it is. It makes me wonder exactly how popular Ultraman is over there in Japan. I mean, I know he's like big, but I'm wondering just how popular the Ultra series was before this movie came out, before everyone was like, oh, cool, look, Anno's making an Ultraman movie. Because before Shin Godzilla, from what I understand, even though Godzilla was like around, they put like out merchandise and everything, he wasn't seen like as the big pop culture icon as you could argue he should be. Like, from what I understand from people who actually lived in Japan, Godzilla was not that popular, and even after Shin Godzilla, he's still not seen as a big marquee name, but he is more popular than what he had been. Although I'll also add the caveat that even though Shin Godzilla got all this big praise and made a whole lot of money, I would argue that it was mostly to do with Anno being involved with it, because in most of the reviews I've seen from non-Godzilla fans, the Godzilla elements aren't brought up that much. They go more for the commentary and Anno's directing than anything else.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like I said, now I will bring up on the whole thing of Godzilla's popularity over there. I heard from 2 people that he isn't, but also when I asked in a group of Japanese people, and also according to Ninko Kikuchi and a bunch of other things I looked into, Godzilla is pretty popular, though his popularity did die down around the 2000s. But I heard in around 2016, um, Godzilla's popularity was growing back. That's why Toho decided to make another one. I think that's why they said something like, we need to remind people where the king came from, and that's when they brought Shin Godzilla, and people went to see that, loved it, and I think Godzilla's popularity has started growing up high again. Now, it's in Toho's been sticking with it because it's been relatively successful.
And I absolutely love Shin Godzilla, believe it or not. It's basically the modern equivalent to Godzilla 1954.
And yeah, that's the point of it. But yeah, essentially, that's why they're calling this the whole. I'd rather not they're doing the whole universe thing. Why they're calling this the whole Shin Japan Heroes universe, I think is kind of like a response to how America has their own heroes. Stuff like Ultraman, Godzilla, and Kamen Rider are essentially the heroes of Japan. Even though Godzilla's not a hero.
But they're also missing Super Sentai, though.
Yeah, I think Sentai will eventually reach its way in there, I think. Which Anno did do a Sentai style film similar to Return of Ultraman in his Daikon film days, though.
I guess only time will tell. Now, I'll ask you guys a question. Before Shin Godzilla came out, would you say that Ultraman was at one point, or the Ultra series was more popular than Godzilla? And where do you think that spectrum is now that both Shin Godzilla and Shin Ultraman have come out?
I'd say around the 2000s Ultraman was, because like I said, in the 90s Godzilla was at its peak in popularity. Then around the 2000s people started to kind of get sick of the kaiju genre, but they were not sick of toku heroes. Well, toku heroes are superheroes. So they still were liking Ultraman and Kamen Rider and Garo, and
oh yeah, Garo is best toku franchise next to Ultraman, let me tell you.
Yeah, but in terms of stuff like that, God, all that stuff was doing well. But then later, after having a break, Godzilla started to gather more people around. According to a person I'm friends with who's an English teacher in Japan, we're not thinking of the same person, Cody, because we're both friends with the guy I'm telling you about. But this person's in my Discord server. I'm just gonna say it. Mr. Ranting Randy. He's an English teacher in Japan now. He generally says when it comes to mainstream stuff.
The dude who shows off of Japanese graviori videos.
Yeah, when it comes to he told me big franchises over there often they take a break, unlike the MCU, because often Japanese people want to see something new. So generally they'll stop going to something in the theater, and eventually once they've had their break they will come back. A part of me wishes America would have stuff like that more often, because then maybe
Same.
Because maybe
you'd think Hollywood would have gotten the whole memo that we're basically sick to death of the MCU. Like, goddamn, the MCU ended with Endgame. Let it die.
Yeah. Reason why, huh?
Go on ahead. I was going to try to move this along, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Reason why I think stuff like Ultraman and Kamen Rider are able to kind of keep going on without needing a break, at least for a while. Ultraman did take a break once, so did Kamen Rider, but it's been a long time, is because they're on TV, while stuff like Godzilla often takes going to pay money to go see. So Godzilla needed a break, but now, like Ultraman and stuff like that, he made its way back up into popularity. And now you have this new evolved style that the Japanese are loving. The American community is mixed on it. Like, some people in the West love Shin, some people in the West hate it. Some people in the West love Singular Point, some people in the West hate Singular Point. But Toho's using that style because that's what their current audience wants to see. And that's generally what it's saying all these franchises do. Like, even Ultraman and Kamen Rider, they go to a certain style after a while to kind of appeal to that audience without getting old. Like, you have, when it comes to Ultraman, for example, you have stuff like Ginga and X. Then later it moved on to stuff like Orb, Geed, and now you have a new style that started with Ultraman Z that moved on to Trigger. And I haven't seen the newest episode of Decker, the first episode of Ultraman Decker yet, but that Decker probably also has that similar tone and style. But that is a thing. That's how this whole corporate stuff works. They have to keep adding something to make it new, but that's how but stuff with movies, it often, even doing that, it needs a break after a while, since people have to go pay for that.
Something you said earlier, Joey, about how people would prefer if franchises take a break. I think that's a good segue into the next movie I think we should talk about, because, oh boy, did this franchise take a break. In fact, I honestly don't think anyone was even asking for a second entry to make it into a franchise, but it has come nonetheless. What we have next up on topic is Top Gun Maverick, which is currently the only movie in this little panel discussion where we have that has made more than $1 billion at the box office.
And my second film of the year, mind you.
Oh yeah, Top Gun Maverick, that's another movie that's doing really good, which is interesting because the first Top Gun, while is a classic, I've not seen it myself, but I do plan to. The first Top Gun, to my understanding, is very polarizing with people. You have a side that loves it, a side that hates it, and a side that considers it so bad it's good. So it's interesting that its sequel, after all these years, is getting such a positive reputation, but it is. Even the Japanese are loving the movie. It took number one from Shin Ultraman. That's not saying it did better with Shin Ultraman on opening weekend, because I want to get this out of the way. Shin Ultraman, a lot of people already went out to see it. So a lot of people heard. So those people that already seen Shin Ultraman went to see Top Gun Maverick. That's normal. But the point is, though I don't think it made as much as Shin Ultraman as a whole, it still took number one spot, and it shows that people all over the world are taking interest in this movie. And I think even critics are liking it.
That and there's also the Area 80. That and there's also the Area 88 aspect of Top Gun Maverick. It's basically fighter jet porn, with the emphasis on the hardcore aspect of the fighter jet porn.
Yeah.
Not only are people loving Top Gun Maverick, a lot of critical reviews that I've seen have gone out of their way to say it surpasses the original in terms of actual quality. In fact, I have them both pulled up here. The Rotten Tomatoes score on Top Gun, the original one, is at 56%, although I must add the caveat that that's based on 71 critical reviews, whereas we have Top Gun Maverick, whose score is at 97%, and that's from 430 reviews.
Yeah, and it's doing well, which I find, like I said, a lot of people, when they think of sequels, they think of something that's inferior to the first. This is one of them that's going to reach that list of second movies that people are like, oh yeah, this blows the first out of the water. Hell, I know people who said the first Top Gun was boring that's actually interested in seeing this one. So that
I don't see what's so boring about aerial combat fights. I'm sorry, dude.
I haven't seen it myself, but I do want to. I think it's one of Pacific Rim's inspirations outside of Godzilla, Ultraman, Mazinger, and Super Sentai.
Oh, it is. If you listen to the director commentary by Guillermo del Toro, he goes out of his way to point out what he took from Top Gun and injected into certain scenes of Pacific Rim. Now, myself, I have an interesting history with the first Top Gun. I only saw pieces of it as a kid because, well, I was an autistic child, literally running all over the place, and if something couldn't keep my interest for more than 5 minutes, guaranteed I would be running out of one room and into the other. But there were scenes in the first Top Gun that caught my attention. I didn't get to see it all the way through. And then later on in life, I heard its 3 different theme songs, that being the one instrumental theme, then the theme by Kenny Loggins called Danger Zone, and then Mighty Wings by Cheap Trick. And then one of my friends recommended it to me that I watched the full thing, and I watched it all, and I gotta say, I actually really like the first Top Gun. I think it's a fun movie and engaging. Probably one of Tom Cruise's better movies. I have not.
Definitely better than The Mummy. That fucking sucked.
We don't talk about that here, my child.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Tom Cruise made a very bad movie and called it The Mummy.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That was definitely not a high point in Tom Cruise's career, let me tell you.
It was utter dog shit.
That was a movie that deserved to die at the box office.
The video game is much better than the movie. That's got to be saying something.
I haven't played the video game, and honestly, it never really caught my interest. But I wouldn't be surprised.
It's actually very good, and it's done by Way Forward. The guys who did Shantae, trust me,
Fair enough.
It's legit good.
Fair enough.
Oh, since I brought up the original Top Gun, let's look at its budget and box office from when it came out. I have to stress that there's been a lot of inflation since then, so what was seen as low budget or good box office back then won't necessarily reflect on good low budget and good box office now, because again, inflation's a bitch.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Brandon.
Oof. The budget of the first Top Gun was $15 million, which is a lot of money, but you ask anyone who has a fat wallet now, they'll be like, oh no, that's not enough money, we need more. Whereas the box office was $357.3 million, and that was seen as a success. Whereas, since you brought it up, Joey, we'll compare with The Mummy, which Tom Cruise's The Mummy, which made $317 million at the box office, yet was seen as a box office bomb. We live in a world where you can make $317 million at the box office, and that's not seen as good numbers. Again, you gotta be $1 billion to be guaranteed a success, or somewhere in the middle of that and $500 million to say, okay, we can call it a day. God damn.
Yeah, pretty much. But that's the thing about time. Times change a lot. Like, even when you look at stuff like King Kong versus Godzilla in 1962, I know Japanese budgets are a lot lower than American budgets in general, but when you look at King Kong versus Godzilla's budget in 1962, that was considered a high-budget Japanese movie, and I think it was only in... Let me check the millions of King Kong versus Godzilla, because I'm pretty sure that budget was a small one compared to...
And when you adjust it for inflation, King Kong versus Godzilla is still seen as the most financially profitable Japanese Godzilla movie.
Oh yeah, because the movie, a lot of people wanted to see that, and it is considered to be a classic, but who wouldn't want to see two of the most iconic monsters go at each other's throats? Like, even when you look at compared to the Monsterverse, it's overall still has a very strong impact. Okay, let me look.
Is monkey versus lizard.
Yep. But yeah, let me check its budget. I don't know why my Google is all in Japanese, so don't ask.
Yeah, I definitely love Conky Donk versus Godzuki.
Okay. Let me check.
Oh, that was funny.
Let me check the wiki. Okay. What was it? Okay, budget was $150 million. Yeah, the thing is, for that time, that's actually a pretty big budget. But when you compare that to today, it's super small.
Right.
But yeah, times change. So what makes a blockbuster back then isn't the same of what makes a blockbuster now. But even then, I can still go back and appreciate something on a lower budget. Hell, I watch foreign movies, and a lot of the time, I'm going to say right now, a lot of foreign movies tend to look better than Hollywood sometimes. Like, you compare a lot of MCU effects. MCU effects I find to be hit and miss, but compare an MCU effect with some really good effects of Godzilla, and honestly, I think sometimes it gets pummeled. Hell, look at the upcoming Shin Kamen Rider. They're just using suits. They could use suits for Marvel heroes, but they don't.
Yeah, not to mention, here's the advantage Japanese cinema has over American cinema. Japanese cinema use practical effects
Yeah, and
alongside CGI.
Yeah, and even when they use CGI, often it still tends to look really good. Like Shin Godzilla, Shin Ultraman looks really good from the trailers. They lost stuff in MCU. I feel like they just throw whatever bullshit they can in there, knowing that consumers will just take it in without complaining.
Speaking of the MCU effects, we're going to look at a different MCU effect that, and compare it to Top Gun Maverick. We're going to call it the fatigue. Because I think people are maybe slowly starting to get sick of MCU movies, because a good chunk of the more recent movies, from what I've seen, haven't been making a whole lot of money and have been getting mixed receptions. Eternals itself is actually seen by filthy casuals as the first genuinely bad MCU movie. I would argue you could make arguments about other MCU movies before this,
Captain
but
Marvel.
Kryptonian Kaiju said Marvel fatigue is hitting really hard lately, including me. I agree. Like, I enjoy the MCU, but you can definitely tell that they're just putting out whatever they can because it makes money. And eventually,
Avengers Endgame was the end.
Yeah. And again, like the Japanese audience gets with Godzilla every now and then, American audience are starting to lose interest in the MCU. Now, eventually, like Godzilla, as Kryptonian Kaiju said, another thing, how Godzilla always has some type of resurgence every 10 years, Marvel will at some point too. But right now, with all this every year movie, it's slowly dying down.
Yeah, and then there's also the woke pandering bullshit in Phase 4. Like, good God, could these directors get any more disingenuous with their pandering message?
When it comes to the woke stuff, honestly, I do think some people tend to exaggerate it, but it is there. Like in Endgame, there's a certain part that was really fucking cringy, but so yeah, I can agree on that. I do think people do tend to exaggerate it in some aspects. Like, some people are like, when they see something like something minor, they'll go, "Oh, it's woke," and it's like, that's not woke.
I'm going to bring up a point that I think Kryptonian Kaiju made in the comments earlier about what people generally look for when they go to movies. This is general population. They go purely for escapism and to have fun and get away from the worries of the real world. I'm paraphrasing there, but that's basically it. And I think that's what the big appeal was for people for Top Gun Maverick. It just looked like a fun time based on the advertisements that came out. I solely believe the trailers and the one sneak peek that they put in front of some showings helped it out, because about that sneak peek, it was a montage of a training exercise of a bunch of rookie pilots flying after Maverick, who is again played by Tom Cruise, who's reprising his role from the first movie, and it was set to The Who's Won't Get Fooled Again. It was well-paced. It was fast when it needed to be, with the cuts and the editing and whatnot, and it also put in good character moments of characterization when it needed to, at least in my opinion, when I saw it ahead of my screening of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And something else it did that I thought was really fun that a lot of movies don't seem to be able to do well. It perfectly simulated what flying would actually feel like, even though you yourself weren't flying. In that moment, you were somehow able to feel what it would be like to be flying.
I think
At least that's what it was for me. And it also didn't hurt that I was sitting in one of the higher up seats, so I was like high up off the ground. So it didn't. That probably helped the whole simulating flying thing for me too, personally.
I think another reason Top Gun Maverick tends to do well is, again, a lot like how the MCU just pops out a movie every year with not much difference from the last. I think when it comes to Top Gun Maverick, it's one of those things that has that balance of familiarity while being something new, because Top Gun has never had a sequel to my understanding, and if it has, this is the first it's had in years. But the thing is, the original Top Gun is a classic, so it has that familiarity of people like, oh yeah, this is a sequel to Top Gun, but at the same time, it is the first Top Gun movie they're ever going to see in a movie theater, some being the first Top Gun movie they've seen in a theater since fucking years. So that's another appeal that's probably going to get them, because it has that balance of something that we've seen before with something that's actually new and not just corporate crap, as a lot of people would describe the MCU.
I think a part of it is also more critical and cynical people would say that the reason Top Gun Maverick is doing so well and they consider it better than the first movie is they're riding a wave of what's called 80s nostalgia, where they take tropes or properties from the 80s and apply them to movies currently being made, but are somehow able to do it better, and it was handled better, it's better written, and they're implemented in ways that are superior to the 80s movies. I don't particularly agree with that, but I've seen more cynical people say that when old properties are brought back and done right, they end up being better than the original source material. That's up for debate, though.
I can't agree with that. I think it depends.
Speaking of really good 80s films that definitely need a sequel, how about that last Starfighter, huh?
My bro, I'm with you! I love The Last Starfighter.
You and me both, Britta.
So, yeah, as it stands right now, in addition to the widespread critical praise of the movie and its box office success, it's become the highest grossing movie of 2022 so far, and the second film released after the COVID pandemic era to gross $1 billion. Only two movies so far have reached more than $1 billion following the COVID pandemic. And it's also the highest grossing movie of Tom Cruise's career. So, yeah, it's something pretty special.
Yeah, pretty much. Honestly, I would like to see a Top Gun movie by Guillermo del Toro, even though I have no attachment to the Top Gun series, as I haven't seen any yet. He clearly likes them enough to have inserted a few elements into his masterpiece that was Pacific Rim. So I would be curious to see how he would do a story like that.
Honestly, the one Del Toro movie I want the most right now out of anything, I want him to be finally able to be allowed to make his At the Mountains of Madness adaptation.
I want a real Pacific Rim
I'd be
sequel.
down for that one too. I mean, I definitely love me some good old H.P. Lovecraft type storytelling.
Yeah, he would definitely do something good there.
Yeah,
though.
That's basically what I respect about Evangelion. It's basically H.P. Lovecraft by way of Ultraman and giant robots.
Pretty much. Not to mention, not to get into religious stuff here, but fun fact, a lot of those weird angels in Evangelion, the reason they look weird is because a lot of angels in the Bible actually look fucking freaky.
I know.
Many Christians don't know
the
that.
selling point of Evangelion, because it's basically man fighting against the unknown.
Pretty much, and that's one of the reasons I love it. Kryptonian Kaiju said, Top Gun is fun because it's just having fun with itself and its world. The new tech for the flight controls are a big draw as well. Yeah, that's the thing about movies. Like, I don't like when people put fun movies by going that, oh, this is fun, but it's not great because they're comparing it to a drama. No, fun movies have a different goal than a drama. I wouldn't compare Godzilla Final Wars to Gojira because their goals are completely different. If a fun movie intends to just be fun and not take itself seriously, it can be a masterpiece for what it's doing.
Exactly, man. I mean,
absolutely. I want to bring something up. Oh, sorry, Matt. Did I cut you off?
Yeah. I mean, there's a huge difference between something like Neon Genesis Evangelion and Mazen Kaiser SKL, whereas Evangelion was clearly trying to tell a dramatic story with incredible world building and dramatic characters. Mazen Kaiser is basically just simply out there to make the most metal mecha anime in the known universe, and with a no fucks given attitude about it.
Yeah, they're two completely different things. Not everything needs to be serious. Everything has its own goals and should be judged as such. But yeah, I still want to see Top Gun. I'll probably end up seeing the original before Maverick. Though I'm not gonna go see Maverick in the theater. I will see it eventually. But yeah, that's essentially what I've heard.
The original Top Gun's on Paramount Plus, so you can definitely see it.
It's on Netflix too.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'll check it out.
I would say, even though I'm not going to do it myself because I just can't, unfortunately, I would say see Top Gun Maverick in theaters because, in my opinion, just from the preview I was talking about with set to that Who song, it's an experience that is practically yelling at you that needs to be seen in theaters. Like, you know how there's like the big surround sound system they have and that big screen, and it really lends itself well to these big bombastic things, like be they monster movies or superhero movies or war movies. I would say argue that Top Gun Maverick falls into that same category.
It probably does.
That's also one of the main reasons why Mamoru Nagano never released his Gothic made movie on Blu-ray, because he's that much a cinema snob.
Cinephile?
I'm more thinking cinema snob.
Fair. I have one last thing I want to bring up about Top Gun Maverick before we move on to the next and final movie of the podcast. Joey, our friend Trevor, brought up an idea that the reason Top Gun Maverick's doing so well, whereas comparatively MC movies have been faltering, he said that he feels that people are fatigued on nerd-focused stuff in general and are looking for movies more real-world driven. Would you two agree with that, or is it just MCU fatigue alone?
Kind of agree, but then again, and the main reason the MCU is not really doing so well is really has more to do with really awful writing and pandering to an audience that ain't gonna buy their shit no matter what.
I think it's more of MCU fatigue, mainly because while I do enjoy the MCU, they are just popping out a movie every year and year and year and year. So
yeah, it's basically the same deal with Call of Duty back in the 7th console gen.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you can't pop something out every year and make it good. Like, Ultraman does that often, and a lot of the seasons of Ultraman, they're able to keep things new and exciting, but it does make stuff more challenging if you're going to do it every year. And Marvel, I feel like they don't even try. They just write something similar. They throw a bunch of bullshit together, make it where the CGI is at some points good, others tolerable, and others looks like shit. And I think a lot of people are kind of getting sick of that, along with going to see the same the same franchise over and over and just wanting to see something different. Are they?
Yeah, but remember, folks. But remember, Joey, do not ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next product.
Pretty much, it's all. I don't think they're garbage movies. I think they're generally good, but
they're good for different reasons.
Yeah, for lack of a better word, they're corporate garbage. I'm not saying they're garbage movies, but in the way that they're made simply just to get something out because they know it's going to make a lot of money. That's why they're being made. And does that mean a lot of people are wanting to see more realistic stuff? Perhaps. Like, generally what people have been doing.
I'd actually be more stoked at the idea of a mecha cinematic universe, like, I don't know, Gundam cinematic universe or BattleTech cinematic universe, or I'll even.
But I don't think it's from more fantasy driven stuff, especially considering how well Godzilla vs. Kong did at the theater. I think it's more to do with wanting something outside of Marvel and maybe even superheroes as a whole is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, I'd definitely be down for cinema being mecha focused. Like, anyone remember Robot Jocks?
I do.
Yeah, that was such a good movie. Like
I said, I don't think it's has to do with people just wanting realistic stuff. I think it's more to do with wanting more variety. That's what I think.
Yeah. I also think that this is possible. This is just what I'm thinking. People might finally be starting to see the cracks of the MCU movies, seeing how comparatively cookie cutter and assembly line they feel, as opposed to putting in the effort to actually make them feel unique from each other while also being respectful to their source material. Because let's face it, a lot of the MCU movies are not that respectful to their source material, which pisses a lot of hardcore Marvel Comics fans off.
Yeah, me especially. I mean, I would have been down for Doctor Doom as the main villain of the entire MCU, but no, they went with low rent Darkseid Thanos.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that per se, him being the villain to focus on in phase one.
They even got Thanos wrong. Like, Thanos was more a simp for death, and yeah, he does all this genocidal shit just because he wants to get in Death's panties.
I think that's speaks more to the crowd we have today as opposed to when that original storyline was written. Because back then, people were more accepting of these classically tragic Greek-like stories or Shakespearean-type stories where a big fallacy for these powerful men was their love for something, whereas today people would just be like, that's bullshit, that's dumb, that's stupid. We live in a more cynical world, so to try to adapt, the writers changed Thanos.
Yeah, that's basically why our society is complete bullshit, because we're basically weaned on this whole nihilistic bullshit. I mean, that's basically why I'm not that much a fan of Rick and Morty, because Rick Sanchez fucking sucks as a human being.
Yeah, I never really watched Rick and Morty, to be honest, because
you ain't missing much, dude.
I'll be honest, a lot of these shows on Adult Swim aren't good. The animation's just ugly. The jokes are just forced edginess that essentially, like, you can have an edgy joke. I love edgy humor, but your whole shtick can't be, hey, I'm edgy, please laugh. You have to have something that's good that works.
You have to have a punchline. That's kind of what Aqua Teen Hunger Force and Sea Lab 2021 did so well.
Yeah, here's what makes edgy humor work is edginess should be the hot sauce on the product. It shouldn't be the entire thing.
I don't care much for adult-oriented comedic TV animated shows myself, it's just thing because again they go for edgy humor, gross out humor, and stuff like that. It's like, oh, look at how adult we're being, and I'm just like, you're immature as fuck. Shut the fuck up and sit the hell down.
Yeah, kids shows are more fucking mature than they are. It's sad.
Yeah, that is saying a lot, especially with how, especially with the whole CalArts bullshit and how apparently some people think CalArts is way better than anime. Like, god damn, that's some bullshit.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm
SoCal art is crap.
All CalArt is crap, dude. That's just me talking.
But anyway, does that mean we are ready to move on to the next topic, or are we still on Top Gun Maverick?
No, I think
let's go to Jurassic Park Dominion.
Yeah, Jurassic World Dominion. Cody, you go first, since, like I said, this was your idea for the podcast.
Okay, so Jurassic World Dominion, the 6th overall released Jurassic movie, and it was released June 10th of this year, and as on a budget of $185 million, has so far made $876.5 million at the box office. Now, I gotta say, when I honestly thought that this movie came out before Top Gun Maverick, I don't know why I thought it did, but Top Gun Maverick was actually released in May, so when I saw that Maverick was doing so much better than Jurassic World comparatively at the box office, I'm just like, oh shit, does Dominion really suck that much? Because I haven't seen it yet. So here's what I've garnered so far. People were stoked for the first Jurassic World movie because they thought it was like bringing the series back to its roots a bit, and then they didn't care for Fallen Kingdom. They thought it sucked big time, and now with Dominion, people are just like, yeah, this one sucks, but at least it doesn't suck as much as Fallen Kingdom. That seems to be the general consensus and the critical consensus as well.
Yeah,
and
I'm just gonna be upfront and honest with y'all. I never really cared much for Jurassic Park. I mean, I don't hate it. It just wasn't my thing.
I love Jurassic Park. I always have. But in terms of people saying that this is actually better than Fallen Kingdom wasn't great, but I will be honest, I actually enjoyed Fallen Kingdom. I thought overall it was a fun little movie. So I think despite this film's reputation, I might able to enjoy it myself. But I have heard some genuine criticisms that are pretty concerning on the outcome. And it does seem like it's choosing fan service over quality, which I'm not against fan service. I think a lot of time when critics are like, fan service bad, it's like that's not a criticism. There's good ways to handle fan service, but
exactly.
But if fan service just being there to just remind you of the good old days, other than actually serving something without actually making sense in the plot or doing something of value, then that's when problems come in. And a lot of corporates
that's kind of what the Star Wars sequels did wrong. They did fan service really wrong. I mean, it's really just member berries.
Oh, I remember.
If anyone's ever seen that South Park episode.
I has. Or at least I saw like the first 2 episodes featuring the member berries. I remember them being funny. I never got to see how that arc concluded, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about Jurassic World.
Sorry for sidetracking everyone.
No, you're fine. Good. We've been getting sidetracked throughout this whole goddamn podcast. Now it's no different. I'm just trying to keep us.
Fair enough.
Just trying to keep us going since we're on the last movie, and I want to kind of get through this one as fast as possible because I want to move on with my day. Not that I don't enjoy talking to you guys. It's just that we've been here over an hour.
Wow.
But
we've really been over an hour? Holy shit, does time fly when you're having fun with friends?
Yeah.
Right?
But That's essentially my take on Dominion. I think it's still doing well in the box office, though. I could be wrong. Though critics are bashing it, and I know audience are. I think people are still going to see it, but I could be wrong. Am I wrong about that?
Critics do not like it, and the general population seems to be mixed on it. From what I can garner, I still say personally that this movie is doing very well financially. But again, we live in a day and age where if you don't make it to at least to $1 billion, people will start saying, "Oh, that's kind of disappointing. This is totally wrong. Something's bad has happened. Oh my gosh, it's the end of days." And I'm just like, bro, it still made like 800 and some odd $1 million. You can rest. Your wallet can rest easy tonight. Calm the fuck down.
Exactly. They're making more than they put in the movie. Thus, it is objectively a profitable product. Kryptonian Kaiju said, I didn't like it. It wasn't awful, but it didn't feel fun. That's a shame, because the thing about Jurassic World...
that's pretty much me towards Jurassic World Dominion. I'm just indifferent towards it, really.
And that is a shame to hear that it isn't fun, at least in your eyes, since Jurassic World, its whole thing is about being fun popcorn flick, while Jurassic Park was kind of a blend of being fun while also serious. So if it isn't fun, that is a massive hit towards what Dominion's going for.
Okay. Kryptonian Kaiju dropping a little bit of a spoiler, but I guess it's been getting around anyways, about one of the main gripes people have had with this movie. In that dinosaurs aren't really the main focus of the movie when people say that they should be. I won't get too deep into that. I kind of know the spoilers because I watched a spoiler review a friend of mine did on the movie. He's liked the movie all right, but said he could understand why other people would be frustrated with it.
Yeah.
Myself, I still want to see it only because I myself am a diehard fan of the Jurassic franchise. Jurassic Park is one of my favorite movies. I both loved it as a kid and it scared the shit out of me as a kid. Now I love it, and as far as I'm concerned, no movie in the franchise has been able to top it thus far. I feel The Lost World came close, and that while Jurassic World, while enjoyable, was a pale imitation, but I can still thus far find a lot of positivities with every entry in the Jurassic series, both the movies and the spin-off short films and TV shows they've been trying to make. I just love this franchise. I love the dinosaurs. I love so many things about it, but I can understand people's other frustrations. And if you're just not into it like that, like what Matt said, then that's it.
Pretty much. Jurassic Park has always been something I really liked. Hell, I also enjoyed the sequels, Jurassic Park 2, and even Jurassic Park 3. Like, Jurassic Park 3 for me has always been a fun popcorn flick, but it does have a lot of objective flaws. I'm not going to deny that. But, so we'll see what I think when I go see it. But my hopes aren't too high, considering that I have heard genuine criticisms about it.
I would like to go see it because, well, again, this seems like one of those kind of movies that's just practically screaming for you to see it on the big screen because of the big bombastic scenes there probably are with the dinosaurs and whatnot. But for me, I'm just in a position in life where I can't really go out that much anymore, so I have to be more selective with what I go see. And while I do want to see this movie, nothing about it screams for me on a personal level that I should go see it in theaters.
I agree.
Like what Top Gun Maverick was for me. I do very much want to see that on the big screen, but again, in a position where I can't really and have to be more selective. Now you go, Joey. Sorry for cutting you off.
It's all good. I almost cut you off first, so my mistake.
You bastard!
But that's the thing. Like a lot of these movies, a lot of these sequels to older films, they just feel like they're out to gather nostalgia. Like the Disney Star Wars sequels, as Matt said, they're just out for nostalgia and they do it wrong. Like I should be excited for when a new Star Wars movie comes out, but I'm not. It's just turned into corporate garbage. And Jurassic World, from what I understand, and while I enjoyed the first two Jurassic World movies, even if I haven't heard bad things about this one, it's still nothing I'd be hyped for because, again, there's just something not special about Jurassic Park the Jurassic Park franchise anymore. Like the first was, but it just kind of turned what Hollywood tends to do with their very well-made movies. Like, I know I go on about this a lot, but that's what Pacific Rim Uprising did with Pacific Rim. It took a movie that had a lot of heart in it and turned it into, while I think it is decent overall for what it is, corporate garbage. So it's nothing that's exciting. And if there was another Pacific Rim that was coming that was just like Uprising, I would not be hyped for it because it would just be another Hollywood movie, if that makes sense.
Right on, I feel ya. I do want to ask Matt a few questions before we get off because I'm just curious to pick his brain a little bit. So you say you're not that into the Jurassic franchise as a whole. I want you to go more into it if you can.
I don't know. It's just something about it that it just didn't click with me. Is all that's really all it was. Really, it just didn't click with me. I'm actually more I don't know, sci-fi nerd, like Star Wars, like Star Wars, like Terminator, like Aliens.
Right on. Now, given that stance, are there some entries that you have seen in the series that you still like all right to some degree?
I mean, I like the original Jurassic Park arc all right.
That's
the
cool.
rest, I'm just a bit more indifferent towards, really.
That's fair. And I'm glad that you were able to go more into detail with it, because the reason I wanted you to go to touch on the subject more is because, well, that can be seen as an unpopular opinion to some, but frankly, I feel like the unpopular opinions should be allowed to be heard more. So that's why I'm like...
I mean, what? Yeah, there's a huge difference between me and my anime-hating troll who keeps stalking me.
Oh, shit. Do you need me to kill him?
If you have the means and the knowledge of where he lives...
He will die by my hands.
Gotta be careful what y'all say. I know this is a joke, but you two...
I know, but I'm just...
Okay, Mama Susan, listen to me.
I'm not saying that... I'm not saying no, but neither am I saying yes.
I'll finish, Cody.
Mama Susan, I will never kill anyone. The idea of taking someone's life in my hands actually scares the crap out of me. I'll never do it. I may make some weird-ass jokes like that sometimes, but I'll never actually do it. Please don't demonetize or delete my friend Joey's channel. It's very good.
Only people who don't like Godzilla.
We already tempted fate on that one.
Those are the only people I'd consider.
Yeah, we already tempted fate on that one. If Mama Susan starts demonetizing this channel, then that's the way the cookie crumbles, because Mama Susan be a fucking Karen.
Yeah. To be fair, I'm not monetized yet, but I do want to get monetized.
I think it's better not to be monetized because at least you still free to talk however the fuck you want.
Let's face it, you're never gonna get monetized because you got a potty mouth like a fucking sailor.
That's why I censor my words in the videos now. I put a censor.
I'd rather not be monetized because I'd like people to hear every last nasty syllable I say.
I like
Joe,
to be able to say what I do, but I find a loophole in it. I swear, but now I censor it just to make sure I can get it across. Like D-Man, he swears in his videos, but he censors it just so he could may have it where his videos are made for adult, but he also still able to be monetized.
Joey,
Also,
if I
it's
may,
a Gundam, dude. It's a Gundam fucking rules.
Yeah, I love It's a Gundam. You, Cody?
if I may, I understand why you're censoring yourself, and that's a good logical reason. Good on you. But I think you should probably do better at going through your videos and finding those curse words then, because there are times where half the videos curse words are censored and half the videos curse words are uncensored. So you'll have to get better at looking out for that.
Yeah, I will too. I will too. Though I do say, though there is some I leave on it, I leave intentional because I do think, like, you can't swear in the first few minutes without censorship, but later in the video, I think you can. So that's something I think I could get away with, but you still have to do it in moderation.
Right on. I'll just give you this advice instead. Quit fucking swearing. I'm so sick of the shit that comes out of your mouth. I mean, god damn it, why the hell do you guys swear all the time? Watch your fucking language.
Oh god. But
Man, we are all gonna get soap in our mouths one of these days.
But
anyway, do we have anything else to say about this whole topic, or should we finish, or are we about finished?
I mean, I think I'm done. I just wanted to pick our brains a bit about how we feel about the role box office plays in trying to determine the quality of a movie and what the movie might mean to us besides that, and a whole bunch and what everything surrounding the movie means to us and all that kind of good stuff. And I feel like we've pretty much covered those topics really good. Those boats have sailed, to say the least.
Yeah, pretty much.
What about you, Matt? You got anything else to say?
Not really. Just be excellent to each other and party the fuck on, dudes. And also, Toku over Hollywood.
Indeed.
Right on. Wait, I do have a few more things to say before we head out. They are all relevant to the movies we just discussed in one way or another. First, Shuach! Secondly, I feel the need for speed. And number 3, Jurassic Park is frightening in the dark.
Weird Al reference.
Yeah, boy!
Cultured indeed. But that said, that's it for this episode. Please comment your thoughts down below, and if you enjoyed it, smash that like button, share it around, and subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell for notifications to keep up to date on all my future content. Also, check me out on social media and Alt-Tech. Links are in the description down below, alongside Anime Anteiku. Go check them out as well, as they've been very helpful to the growth of this channel. Also, if you haven't already, check out my latest review of Hideki Anno's Return of Ultraman, and alongside my other stuff in Ultramonth. If that interests you, I put a lot of heart in it, and I'm looking forward to the upcoming release of Shin Ultraman to see what he can do with a bigger budget, experience, and more crew. This is Gojin the Makai Phantom, leaving the building.
Stay awesome, people.